The officer pulls your laptop halfway out of the bag and pauses, not because it looks damaged, not because it's unfamiliar, but because it's heavier than expected. They rotate it once, glance at the screen, and quietly set it aside instead of handing it back. That's the moment people don't expect in 2026. It's an everyday electronic, something you've flown with for years, something you powered on at the gate last time without issue. And yet now, it's no longer treated as a personal device. It's treated as a regulated object. This is where the danger begins. The false assumption is that electronics are safe as long as they turn on, that if a device looks normal, works normally, and belongs to you, it will pass. Most travelers still believe confiscation only happens with obvious threats or outdated batteries. The reality shift is that electronics are now evaluated by category, capability, and configuration, not familiarity. What the device can store, transmit, power, or disguise matters more than what you use it for. The evidence is visible at the checkpoint. Enhanced scanners flag density differences. Officers check ports and compartments more closely. You're asked to power on devices that never required it before. When something doesn't align instantly, the process escalates. This escalation isn't discretionary. In 2026, certain electronics trigger automatic response tiers, secondary screening, detailed inspection. In some cases, confiscation without appeal. The item doesn't have to be illegal. It just has to fall into a class the system can't clear quickly. The consequence at this stage isn't panic, it's pressure. You're separated from your bag, time compresses, boarding continues, and the longer verification takes, the fewer recovery options remain. Missed flights turn into rebooking fees. Confiscation turns into permanent loss. In edge cases, questioning escalates beyond the checkpoint. What makes this especially dangerous is trust. People bring the same electronics they've carried for years, work devices, personal gear, accessories they forgot were even there. They rely on past success as proof of safety. That proof no longer applies because enforcement in 2026 isn't based on what you got away with before. It's based on what the system flags today. And once a device crosses that line, explanations don't undo the classification. This is only the first group of electronics now treated this way. There are others, smaller, more common, and far more likely to be in your carry-on, that trigger even faster confiscation when discovered. The next electronics people lose aren't the obvious ones. They're small, cheap, and often forgotten. The kinds of accessories no one thinks to question. Chargers, power banks, adapters, cables with extra weight that feels normal in your hand. The false assumption is that accessories are harmless by default, that if a device doesn't have a screen, it can't be a problem, that anything sold openly online or at airport kiosks must be acceptable to fly with. In 2026, that assumption is breaking down fast. The reality shift is that accessory electronics are now screened for what they contain, not what they're labeled as. Power capacity, internal modifications, hidden storage, dual-use components. Items that once passed casually are now evaluated as potential concealment devices or power sources beyond allowed thresholds. This is where travelers are stunned. A power bank is removed from your bag and weighed. Its capacity is checked against updated limits. The label doesn't match the internal reading, or worse, there is no clear labeling at all. At that point, the item stops being a charger. It becomes an unidentified electronic component. The evidence is visible in how inspection changes. Officers open casings, they swab ports, they compare the device against updated internal lists you never see. When a power rating exceeds limits, or can't be verified quickly, the outcome is immediate: confiscation. The consequence here isn't a warning, it's loss. Power banks are seized on the spot. Modified chargers are not returned. Adapters with internal storage or unusual circuitry are removed permanently. And because these items are classified as prohibited electronics, there is no claim process. You don't get them back. What makes this dangerous is how common the mistake is. People buy cheap accessories online. They carry backup batteries just in case. They travel with old gear whose labels have faded or fallen off. They assume no one will check closely. In 2026, close inspection is the standard. This escalates quickly when multiple accessories are found together. Several power banks, a charger plus a battery pack, a cable with embedded components. Individually, they might pass. Together, they raise suspicion. And once suspicion exists, time disappears. You're delayed while boarding continues. You rush to repack. You decide what to abandon. And the longer this takes, the fewer options you have to recover the flight. What most travelers don't realize is that accessory confiscations are logged differently. They're recorded as compliance removals, not accidental oversights. That distinction matters. It affects how often your electronics are scrutinized on future trips. This is how people lose items they didn't even know were risky. And there's another class of electronics people trust even more. Devices they wear or carry on their bodies that now trigger even stricter enforcement when flagged. The next electronics people don't expect to lose are the ones they never put in the bag at all. They're worn, clipped, wrapped around wrists, necks, or tucked into pockets. Devices people forget they're even carrying because they've become part of daily life. Wearables. The false assumption is that if an electronic stays on your body, it's exempt from serious scrutiny. Smartwatches, fitness trackers, medical monitoring devices, wireless earbuds, small, personal, always on. Most travelers assume these are invisible to enforcement. In 2026, they aren't. The reality shift is that wearable electronics are now evaluated as transmitters, storage devices, and sensors, not accessories. What they can record, connect to, or interface with matters more than how small or common they are. This is where screening tightens suddenly. You're asked to remove the device, not just to walk through a scanner, to hand it over. Officers inspect ports you didn't realize existed. They check whether the device powers on. They look for pairing history. If the device cannot be verified quickly, it's treated as unresolved electronic equipment. The evidence is visible in how little discussion there is. There's no debate about what the device is for, no interest in your explanation. The inspection follows a checklist. If the device doesn't meet clearance conditions, dead battery, damaged screen, modified casing, unknown firmware, the outcome is decided immediately. The consequence here isn't embarrassment, it's separation. Wearables flagged at the checkpoint are often confiscated permanently, not delayed, not held for later pickup, removed. And because they're classified as electronic transmitters, they aren't returned through lost and found channels. What makes this especially painful is reliance. People depend on wearables for health tracking, heart monitors, fall detection, sleep data. Seniors and frequent travelers rely on them without thinking. Losing them isn't an inconvenience, it's disruption. This escalates further on international routes or mixed itineraries. Devices that transmit across borders trigger additional scrutiny. Medical explanations don't override transmission rules. If verification can't happen instantly, enforcement doesn't pause. And these incidents don't disappear afterward. Wearable confiscations are logged as electronic compliance events. The next time you travel, you're more likely to be asked to remove devices again. Secondary screening triggers sooner. Questions come faster. This is how convenience turns into liability. Because the more integrated a device is with your body, the harder it is to accept that it can be taken away without negotiation. And there's still another category of electronics people trust more than anything else. Devices that don't look suspicious at all because they're designed for work, creativity, or memory, that now trigger the most uncomfortable inspections of all. The electronics people trust the most are the ones that look professional, necessary, justified by purpose alone. Devices carried for work, creativity, or memory, the kinds of tools people assume explain themselves. Laptops, external drives, cameras, audio recorders, drones packed carefully with batteries removed, equipment that feels legitimate because it's expensive and familiar. In 2026, that legitimacy no longer guarantees clearance. The false assumption is that professional or creative devices are self-explanatory, that if something is used for work, it's exempt from deep inspection, that officers will recognize it as standard equipment and move on. The reality shift is that professional electronics trigger stricter scrutiny than personal ones. These devices store large amounts of data. They transmit. They connect to external systems. They can be modified. And because of that, they are evaluated not just as electronics, but as potential access points. This is where discomfort begins. You're asked what the device is for, who owns it, whether it's personal or work issued, if it's registered to a company, if it's ever been altered. These questions aren't conversational, they're classification steps. The evidence is visible in how inspections slow down, drives are removed from cases, camera compartments are opened, serial numbers are checked. You're asked to power devices on and to keep them unlocked. If a device can't be verified quickly, it's treated as unresolved. The consequence here isn't always confiscation. Sometimes it's delay with risk. You wait while boarding continues. You're asked to remain available. If verification takes too long, the system makes a choice for you. Either the device doesn't travel, or you don't. This is especially dangerous for travelers carrying work equipment they can't abandon. Laptops with proprietary data, cameras needed for assignments, drives containing irreplaceable material. The system doesn't care about deadlines or value, it cares about clearance. This escalates fast on international routes and mixed itineraries. Equipment that crosses borders triggers export and transmission considerations most travelers don't know exist. Drones flagged as restricted electronics. Storage devices questioned for content classification. None of this is explained in advance. And like other electronic incidents, these interactions are recorded. Professional device inspections are logged as elevated scrutiny events. The next time you travel, similar equipment is flagged sooner. Secondary screening becomes routine. Tolerance shrinks. This is how work tools turn into travel liabilities, because once a device requires explanation, it's no longer invisible. And there's still one final electronic category that ties all of this together. The one people never think to prepare for because it isn't something you bought or packed. It's what happens when multiple electronics trigger concern at the same time. The final electronics people lose aren't flagged because of what they are. They're flagged because of how many appear at once. This is the mistake no one anticipates. The false assumption is that if each electronic item is allowed individually, carrying several together is still safe. A laptop, a tablet, 2 phones, a power bank, a wearable, a drive, all legal, all common, all yours. In 2026, that combination is enough to change how you're classified. The reality shift is that enforcement no longer evaluates electronics one by one. It evaluates profiles, density, capability clusters. When multiple devices appear together, the system stops seeing personal use and starts seeing aggregation. This is where scrutiny becomes unavoidable. Your bag is pulled aside. Devices are laid out. Officers stop asking what each item is and start asking why you have so many. The questions tighten. Who owns them? Are they personal or work issued? Why you're traveling with duplicates? Whether any contain sensitive data? The evidence is visible in how the process changes speed. This isn't a casual check. It's a pattern review. When multiple electronics trigger concern at once, the system treats the situation as elevated risk. That triggers extended inspection, manual review, and decisions that don't require your agreement. The consequence here isn't just delay, it's forced choice. You're told certain devices cannot continue. You decide what stays and what goes. If you refuse, the system resolves the uncertainty itself by denying boarding. Flights don't wait for electronics to be sorted. They move on. This is where people are shocked. They didn't violate a rule. They didn't hide anything. They packed the same way they always have. But the system isn't punishing behavior. It's managing risk. And aggregated electronics are risk it doesn't tolerate under time pressure. These events don't end when you leave the airport. Multiple device incidents are logged as profile escalations. The next time you travel, electronics are inspected sooner. secondary screening becomes expected. You're asked to separate devices immediately. Tolerance disappears. This is how travelers lose invisibility, not because they did something dangerous, but because they looked capable of too much at once. That's the rule most people never learn until it costs them. Electronics in 2026 aren't judged by familiarity. They're judged by classification, capability, and context. What passed last year doesn't guarantee passage today, and what looks normal to you may look excessive to the system. That's the takeaway. If you're still packing electronics based on past success, you're relying on rules that no longer protect you, because the system doesn't remember what you carried safely before. It remembers friction. You've been watching Terminal Insider, where the rules change before travelers notice. Subscribe, because the next checkpoint is already closer than you think.